The Millionaire's card was declined, and only a street girl dared to do the unthinkable. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching us from. We continue. I promise that this will be the best story you will hear in your life. Alexander Reed stood at the checkout counter of Walton's grocery, impatiently tapping his Italian leather shoes against the linoleum floor. As the CEO of Reed Enterprises, one of the fastest-growing technology companies in Silicon Valley, he wasn't accustomed to waiting. His time was valuable, worth thousands per hour according to his accountant, and he had already wasted 15 minutes in this unexpected grocery run. "I apologize, sir, but your card has been declined," the cashier said, her voice barely audible, over the beeping scanners and conversations filling the store. Alexander frowned. "That's impossible. Try it again." The young woman nodded, swiping the black titanium card once more. The machine beeped in protest. "I'm sorry, sir, it's still not working." "Fine." He pulled out another card from his wallet, platinum with his name embossed in raised lettering. "Use this one." Behind him, a heavy sigh emanated from a middle-aged man checking his watch. Alexander felt his neck grow hot. He wasn't used to being the cause of other people's inconvenience. The cashier swiped the second card. Another decline. "Sir, perhaps you should call your bank," she suggested gently, conscious of the growing line. Alexander pulled out his phone, but to his dismay it was dead. He had been on conference calls all morning without a chance to charge it. Frustration bubbled in his chest as he fumbled for his third card, his emergency backup. Surely this one would work. It didn't. "Is there a problem here?" The store manager approached, a balding man with a name tag that read Frank. "Yes, there's a problem," Alexander snapped. "Your system is clearly malfunctioning." Frank's expression remained neutral, years of customer service having taught him patience. "Our system processed the last 20 transactions without issue, sir." The line behind Alexander had grown to 7 people, all wearing expressions ranging from mild annoyance to outright hostility. A woman with a crying toddler rolled her eyes. An elderly gentleman muttered something about rich folks and their problems. Alexander felt something he hadn't experienced in years: embarrassment. Raw, unfiltered embarrassment. In boardrooms and executive meetings, he commanded respect. Here, under the fluorescent lights of a suburban grocery store, he was just another inconvenience in people's day. "I'll have to cancel these items," he said finally, his voice lower. As the manager began the process of voiding the transaction, Alexander noticed a small figure watching him from near the bagging area. A little girl, no more than 9 years old, with dark curly hair pulled into 2 neat braids, observed the scene with curious eyes. She wore a simple blue dress that had been washed too many times, its color faded but clean. Beside her stood a cart containing cleaning supplies, bleach, mops, rubber gloves. "Lily, please go finish the bathroom," a woman called from nearby. She wore the store's janitorial uniform, her name tag reading Maria. "In a minute, Mom," the girl replied, her eyes still fixed on Alexander. The manager finished voiding the transaction, and Alexander stepped aside, his grocery items abandoned. The line moved forward, relieved sighs filling the air. He stood there, unsure what to do next. His house was 15 miles away, his phone was dead, and his cards weren't working. For the first time in years, Alexander Reed felt powerless. He contemplated his options. A small hand tugged at his sleeve. He looked down to find the little girl, Lily, standing beside him. "Excuse me, mister," she said, her voice surprisingly confident for someone so young. "Are you having trouble with your money?" Alexander straightened, uncomfortable with the direct question. "It's just a technical issue, nothing serious." Lily nodded thoughtfully, then reached into the pocket of her dress. "I have some money if you need it." She extended her hand, revealing a collection of coins and crumpled dollar bills. "It's $15. I've been saving for a book, but you can borrow it." Alexander stared at the child, momentarily speechless. The innocence of her offer struck him with unexpected force. This girl, who clearly had so little, was willing to give him, a stranger in an expensive suit, her savings. "Mom says everyone needs help sometimes," Lily continued, misinterpreting his silence. "Even grown-ups." From across the store, Maria noticed the interaction and hurried over. "Lily, what are you doing? I'm so sorry, sir. She shouldn't be bothering you." "She's not bothering me," Alexander said, finding his voice. "Your daughter was just being ice kind." Maria looked uncomfortable. "Lily, put your money away. The gentleman doesn't need it." "But his cards weren't working," Lily protested. "That's not our business," Maria whispered, gently pulling her daughter back. "I apologize again, sir." Alexander looked at the mother and daughter, seeing them truly for the first time. Maria's hands were rough and red from cleaning chemicals. Her uniform was meticulously pressed despite its wear. And Lily, with her bright, intelligent eyes, stood tall beside her mother, unashamed of her modest appearance or her simple gesture of generosity. "Actually," Alexander said, "I would like to buy one thing, if possible." He turned to the cashier, who was helping another customer. "Excuse me, could I just purchase one chocolate bar?" The cashier nodded, and Alexander selected a premium chocolate bar from the display near the register. He handed over one of his business cards, which the cashier accepted with a curious glance. "Would you call me a cab, please?" he asked the manager, who nodded and walked toward the office. While waiting, Alexander approached Lily and Maria again. "Thank you for your offer," he said to the girl, handing her the chocolate. "This is for you." Lily's eyes widened. "Really? Thank you." "No," Alexander said quietly. "Thank you." As he walked out to meet his taxi, Alexander felt strangely unsettled. The simple interaction had disturbed something deep within him, something he had buried beneath years of acquisitions, expansions, and power lunches. Back in his penthouse, that evening, Alexander called his bank only to discover that all his cards were functioning perfectly. There had been no technical issues, no fraud alerts, no reason whatsoever for the rejections. He hung up, more disturbed than relieved. He wandered to his floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at the glittering city below. His reflection stared back at him. Expensive suit, perfectly trimmed hair, the very image of success. Yet something felt hollow. The face of the little girl kept returning to him, her simple generosity exposing a truth he had long ignored. In his pursuit of wealth and power, he had lost touch with basic human connection. That night, for the first time in years, Alexander dreamed. Not of mergers or stock prices, but of a little girl with faded dress and shining eyes, offering him a handful of coins as if they were precious gems. He woke before dawn, his mind racing with thoughts he couldn't quite articulate, but could no longer ignore. Something had changed, something fundamental, and deep down Alexander knew his life would never be the same again. The following morning, Alexander sat in his corner office, staring blankly at quarterly reports while his mind kept drifting back to the grocery store incident. His executive assistant, Eleanor, had worked for him for 7 years, yet he realized he knew almost nothing about her life outside these walls. "Eleanor," he called through the intercom. "Could you come in for a moment?" She appeared promptly, notepad in hand. "Yes, Mr. Reed? How long have you been with me now?" Eleanor blinked, surprised by the personal question. 7 years and 4 months, sir." "And you have children, correct?" The question felt foreign on his tongue. "Yes, 2 boys, ages 12 and 15. Her professional demeanor wavered slightly, revealing her confusion at this unprecedented conversation. "Are they doing well?" Alexander struggled to find the right words for such a simple human inquiry. Eleanor's posture softened. "They're wonderful, thank you for asking. My eldest just made the honor roll and my youngest is quite the little scientist." Alexander nodded, genuinely interested yet unaccustomed to such exchanges. "That's good. Very good." An awkward silence followed, until Eleanor cleared her throat. "Was there something specific you needed, Mr. Reed?" "Yes, I need you to find someone for me." He described the grocery store, the janitor named Maria, and her daughter Lily. "I'd like to speak with them again." Eleanor's eyebrows raised slightly, but she made notes without comment. "I'll see what I can do, sir." 3 days later, Eleanor placed a slim folder on his desk. Maria Diaz and her daughter Lily. She works at 2 locations, the grocery store and as an evening cleaner at the West Side Medical Center. They live in Oakwood Heights, apartment 412. Alexander stared at the folder, suddenly uncertain. What was he doing? What did he hope to accomplish? Before he could second-guess himself further, he made a decision. Clear my schedule for tomorrow afternoon. The following day, Alexander found himself in a neighborhood he would normally only see from the highway. Oakwood Heights was a cluster of aging apartment buildings with chain-link fences and communal laundry lines. Children played in concrete courtyards while elderly residents watched from weathered plastic chairs. He parked his Bentley, immediately out of place among the modest sedans and practical SUVs, and located Building 4. The elevator was out of order, so he climbed 4 flights of stairs, his Italian shoes clicking against the concrete steps. At apartment 412, he hesitated, then knocked. The door opened to reveal Maria, her expression shifting from neutral to shock as she recognized him. Mr. She searched for a name. Alexander Reed, he supplied. We met at Walton's grocery a few days ago. Maria nodded slowly. I remember. What can I do for you, Mr. Reed? Behind her, Lily appeared in the doorway of what appeared to be the kitchen. Her face brightened with recognition. Mom, it's the man from the store. Yes, Lily, go finish your homework, please. But Mom... Now, please. Lily disappeared reluctantly while Maria turned back to Alexander, her posture protective. Is there a problem, Mr. Reed? No problem. I was hoping we could talk. May I come in? Maria hesitated, understandably wary of this unexpected visit from a stranger. Finally, she stepped aside. For a few minutes. The apartment was small but impeccably maintained. What the furniture lacked in quality, it made up for in care. Photographs of Lily at various ages decorated the walls, alongside academic achievement. Certificates. A bookshelf overflowed with well-worn books, many clearly advanced for a child Lily's age. Your daughter likes to read, Alexander observed. Maria's expression softened slightly. She loves it. Always has. Please sit down. Alexander sat on a faded but clean sofa. I wanted to thank Lily properly for her kindness the other day. It affected me more than I expected. Lily has always been generous, sometimes too much. So, Maria remained standing, arms crossed. But why are you really here, Mr. Reed? I looked you up after seeing your business card. You're a very wealthy man with a very busy life. This isn't about a child offering you spare change. Alexander appreciated her directness. You're right, it's not just about that. Your daughter's gesture made me realize something I've been ignoring for a long time. I've built a successful company, but somewhere along the way I lost touch with humanity, I suppose. Maria's stance relaxed slightly. And now you want to what? Make a charitable donation to ease your conscience? I want to help with Lily's education, he said plainly. She's clearly bright. I'd like to pay for her to attend Westridge Academy. It's the best private school in the city. Maria's eyes widened, then narrowed. Why? Because she deserves it and because I can. We don't need charity, Mr. Reed. It's not charity, Alexander insisted. It's an investment in potential, in someone who deserves every opportunity. Maria shook her head. You don't even know us. I know enough, Alexander said. But I understand your hesitation. What if we make it an arrangement? You said you work 2 jobs. My company needs additional cleaning staff. You could work for me, earn a good salary with benefits, and Lily's education would be part of your compensation package. Maria studied him carefully. I don't trust sudden generosity from strangers, especially wealthy ones. There's always a catch. No catch, Alexander assured her. Just a business arrangement that benefits us both. From the kitchen doorway, Lily's voice interrupted them. Mom, I finished my math. Can I come out now? Maria sighed. Yes, come in. Lily entered, her curious eyes moving between her mother and Alexander. Are you feeling better now, Mr. Reed, Alexander Reed? And, yes, much better, thank you. Did your cards start working again? Alexander smiled. They did, it was just a misunderstanding. Lily nodded seriously. That happens sometimes. Last month, Mom's card didn't work because the bank made a mistake. Maria's cheeks colored slightly at this revelation of their financial challenges. Lily, Alexander said gently, I was just telling your mother that I'm impressed by how smart and kind you are. I run a company where your mother could work, and you could attend a school with an excellent science program. Would you like that? Lily's eyes widened. A science program? Real science, with experiments and everything? Everything, Alexander confirmed. I understand you might want to be a scientist someday. A doctor, Lily corrected proudly. I'm going to find cures for diseases. Alexander nodded seriously. A noble goal. Maria touched her daughter's shoulder. Lily, Mr. Reed and I are still talking. Can you give us a few more minutes? Once Lily had reluctantly retreated, Maria fixed Alexander with an intense gaze. I have conditions. Name them. I work real hours for real pay. No made-up position. I earn my way. Alexander nodded. Lily's education comes with no strings. If I ever leave your company, her scholarship continues until graduation. Agreed. And, Maria added firmly, we maintain our independence. No interfering in our personal lives, no making decisions for us. Alexander considered this. I would like to be involved in selecting the right school program for Lily, given my connections. Beyond that, I agree to your terms. Maria was silent for a long moment, weighing her daughter's future against her pride and caution. Finally, she extended her hand. We have an agreement, Mr. Reed, Mr. As they shook hands, Alexander felt something unfamiliar, a sense of doing something meaningful beyond profit margins and market share, something real. What he couldn't possibly know was how this simple agreement would eventually challenge everything he had built his life upon, forcing him to confront not just who he had become, but who he truly wanted to be. 6 months passed in a blur of changes. Maria now supervised the cleaning staff at Reed Enterprises, bringing her efficiency and attention to detail to the corporate environment. Her salary had tripled, allowing her to move with Lily to a safer neighborhood closer to Westridge Academy, where Lily had quickly become a standout student. Alexander found himself transformed as well, though in less obvious ways. He began joining Eleanor for lunch occasionally, learning about her son's baseball games and science projects. He instituted a company-wide minimum wage well above the national standard and improved healthcare benefits for all employees. Small changes perhaps, but meaningful ones. The most surprising change was his growing connection with Lily and Maria. What had begun as a formal arrangement evolved into something more genuine. He attended Lily's science fair, beaming with pride when she won first place. He occasionally joined them for dinner, where Lily's endless questions about business, science, and the world reminded him of his own childhood curiosity, a quality he had somehow lost along the way. However, not everyone appreciated Alexander's evolution. His business partner and co-founder, Victor Harrington, grew increasingly frustrated with what he called Alexander's sudden attack of conscience. This is a publicly traded company, Alex, not a charity, Victor argued during a tense board meeting. These new benefits programs are cutting into our profit margins. Our margins are fine, Alexander countered, and our employee retention has improved significantly, which saves us money in the long run. Victor's eyes narrowed. This isn't about business metrics. This is about that cleaning woman and her kid. Ever since they came into your life, you've gone soft. Alexander felt a flash of anger. That cleaning woman has revolutionized our facilities management, saving us thousands monthly, and her name is Maria. The tension between the partners continued to build as a major new opportunity emerged. The Meridian Project, a government contract worth billions that would cement Reed Enterprises as a global leader in their industry. The potential rewards were staggering, but as Alexander reviewed the proposal details, he discovered troubling elements. Victor, he said, entering his partner's office one evening, we need to talk about the bid process for Meridian. Victor barely looked up from his computer. What about it? Everything's proceeding according to plan. According to whose plan? Alexander dropped a folder on Victor's desk. I found records of payments to Senator Wilkins' consulting firm. Consulting firms don't typically receive $500,000 for 2 meetings. Victor finally looked up, his expression unreadable. It's how business is done at this level. Alex, don't be naive. It's bribery. It's relationship management, Victor corrected smoothly. Everyone does it. How do you think Nexus Tech won the defense contract last year? Or how Quantum Systems secured exclusive rights to the government's AI initiative? Alexander shook his head. I won't be part of it. You already are part of it, Victor said coldly. This company has been making strategic investments in political relationships for years. You just chose not to see it. The revelation hit Alexander like a physical blow. Had he truly been blind to such practices, or had he deliberately looked away? I want a full internal audit, he decided. And we're withdrawing from the Meridian bidding process until everything is transparent and above board. Victor stood, anger flashing in his eyes. You can't do that unilaterally. The board won't stand for it. Watch me, Alexander replied, turning to leave. Is this about impressing your janitor girlfriend? Victor called after him. Or her little charity case? Alexander stopped, his hand on the doorknob. This is about who I want to be, he said without turning around. And it's not this. That evening, shaken by the confrontation, Alexander visited Maria and Lily in their new apartment. Lily was at her desk, surrounded by science books and a half-completed model of the solar system. Mr. Reed, she exclaimed. Just in time. Can you help me with Neptune? The ring keeps falling off. Alexander smiled despite his troubled mind. Let's see what we can do. While they worked on the model, Maria prepared dinner. The domestic tranquility stood in stark contrast to the corporate warfare brewing at his office. Somehow this modest apartment had become more of a sanctuary than his luxurious penthouse. Later, after Lily had gone to bed, Alexander sat with Maria on their small balcony, the city lights twinkling below. You seem troubled, Maria observed, handing him a cup of coffee. Alexander hesitated, then found himself telling her everything: the Meridian project, Victor's corrupt practices, his own growing disillusionment with the business world he had once dominated so confidently. Maria listened without interruption, her expression thoughtful. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment before speaking. When Lily was 5, we were nearly evicted from our apartment, she said finally. A man offered to pay our rent for 6 months if I would help him smuggle prescription medications from the hospital where I cleaned. Nothing dangerous, he said. Just expensive medications that people couldn't afford otherwise. Alexander watched her profile in the dim light. What did you do? I considered it, Maria admitted. I was desperate, but then I thought about what I was teaching Lily by taking that path. What kind of future I was building for her, built on dishonesty and shortcuts. She turned to face him directly. I worked 3 jobs instead. It was brutal. But Lily never saw me compromise who I was, not even when it would have made our lives easier. Her words pierced through Alexander's confusion, crystallizing the choice before him. It's not that simple in my world, he said, though the excuse sounded hollow even to his own ears. It's exactly that simple, Maria replied, just harder to execute with more zeros attached to the numbers. The question is the same. Who are you teaching yourself to be? What example are you setting? Not just for Lily or for me, but for yourself. Alexander left that night with Maria's words echoing in his mind. The next morning, he called an emergency board meeting and presented evidence of the company's corrupt practices, initiating a full investigation despite Victor's furious opposition. The consequences were swift and severe. The stock price plummeted as news of the internal investigation leaked. Clients grew nervous, some putting projects on hold pending the outcome. The board was divided, with several members calling for Alexander's resignation for reckless endangerment of shareholder value. Victor, sensing weakness, launched a counter-offensive leaking selective information to the media that painted Alexander as an unstable leader whose judgment had been compromised by personal entanglements with an employee. Photos of Alexander with Maria and Lily appeared in business publications. alongside insinuations about his motives and mental state. The ultimate blow came when Westridge Academy's Board of Trustees contacted Alexander to temporarily suspend Lily's enrollment until the unfortunate situation was resolved. The headmaster, once effusively grateful for Alexander's donations, now couldn't meet his eyes during their brief, uncomfortable meeting. Returning to his office after delivering this news to Maria, Alexander found Eleanor waiting, her expression grave. "The board has called another emergency meeting," she said. "They're voting on whether to remove you as CEO." Alexander nodded, unsurprised. "When?" "Tomorrow morning." "Mr. Reed." "Alexander," Eleanor said, using his first name for perhaps the first time in their long association. "What can I do to help?" He managed a tired smile. "You already have, Eleanor. More than you know." That night, alone in his penthouse, Alexander stood at his window overlooking the city. His reflection stared back at him, no longer the confident titan of industry, but a man at a crossroads. Everything he had built was crumbling around him, his reputation in tatters, his future uncertain. For a moment, he considered calling Victor, negotiating a compromise that would save his position and restore stability to the company. It would be the practical choice, the business-savvy move. Instead, he found himself thinking of Lily's face when she'd offered him her savings that day in the grocery store, of Maria's quiet dignity as she spoke of working 3 jobs rather than compromising her principles, of the person he had been becoming before all this began, someone he had actually started to respect. His decision crystallized just as a knock sounded at his door. He opened it to find Maria and Lily standing there, their expressions resolute. "We heard what happened," Maria said simply. "We heard what happened," Maria said simply. "May we come in?" Alexander stepped aside, surprised by their presence yet somehow relieved. Lily carried a small paper bag, clutching it carefully with both hands. "I'm sorry about the school," Alexander began, but Maria shook her head. "We didn't come for apologies. We came because that's what people do when someone they care about is in trouble. They show up." The simple statement hit Alexander with unexpected force. When was the last time someone had shown up for him, not because of what he could offer them, but simply because they cared? Lily approached, extending the paper bag. "I made you something." Inside, Alexander found a handmade card decorated with glitter and carefully drawn stars. "For Mr. Reed," it read in a child's careful script. "Thank you for believing in me. I believe in you too." Beneath the card lay a small jar containing exactly $15 in coins and crumpled bills. "It's the same amount I tried to give you at the store," Lily explained seriously. "Mom says sometimes people need reminding of when things changed." Alexander felt something crack within him, a wall he hadn't even realized he'd built. He sat heavily on his sofa, the jar clutched in his hands. "I've made such a mess of everything," he admitted. "The company might collapse. Your schooling is jeopardized. My reputation is destroyed." "The company might recover," Maria said, sitting beside him. "The school will either take Lily back or we'll find another one, and reputations can be rebuilt. But integrity, once compromised, is much harder to restore. You don't understand what I'm facing tomorrow." "We understand exactly what you're facing," Maria countered. "A choice between who you were and who you're becoming, between what's easy and what's right." Lily climbed onto the sofa on his other side. "My science teacher says that sometimes experiments fail, but that doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you found one way that doesn't work." Alexander looked at the child's earnest face and found himself smiling despite everything. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise," Lily declared with childish confidence. "You just didn't know me before." That night, after Maria and Lily left, Alexander worked until dawn, preparing documents, making calls to allies on the board, and outlining a comprehensive plan. When he walked into the boardroom the next morning, he was exhausted but resolute. The meeting was as brutal as expected. Victor had marshaled significant support, presenting Alexander's actions as reckless idealism that threatened the company's very existence. When Alexander's turn came to speak, he surprised everyone by agreeing. "Victor is right about one thing. he began. "I have changed. I've remembered something I lost years ago, that success without principles isn't success at all. It's just failure in expensive clothing." He laid out his plan: a complete restructuring of the company's ethical guidelines, transparency in all government contract bids, and a separation from Victor and any board members who opposed these changes. "I founded this company to create technology that improves lives," Alexander reminded them. "Somewhere along the way, we began to value profit over purpose. I'm choosing purpose, even if it costs me everything." The vote was narrow, but Alexander prevailed, largely due to support from institutional investors concerned about potential legal ramifications of the corruption Victor had overseen. Victor was forced to resign, though he left with a generous separation package and immediately began working to undermine his former partner. The following months were challenging. The company's stock continued to fluctuate wildly. Government investigations into past contract awards brought negative publicity. Several major clients departed, uncomfortable with the scrutiny. Alexander was temporarily removed as CEO while investigations proceeded, though he remained chairman of the board. During this period of professional limbo, he found himself with something he hadn't experienced in decades: time. He used it well. With Maria's organizational skills and his business acumen, they established the $15 Foundation, focusing on educational opportunities for underprivileged children with aptitude in science and medicine. The foundation's unusual name attracted curiosity, bringing attention to its mission. Lily, despite the turmoil, thrived academically. Westridge Academy, bowing to pressure from parents and donors who admired Alexander's ethical stance, welcomed her back with apologies. She became an unofficial ambassador for the foundation, her natural charisma and intelligence drawing support from unexpected quarters. Alexander found himself transformed. He spoke at universities about ethical business practices, mentored young entrepreneurs, and worked closely with the new CEO to rebuild Reed Enterprises on a foundation of integrity and innovation. Not all was smooth sailing. Victor, still bitter, used his connections to block the foundation's acquisition of a perfect property for its first medical training center, a former clinic in a neighborhood where healthcare access was limited. The regulatory hurdles seemed insurmountable until Maria identified a legal pathway that had been overlooked. However, implementing it would require a small technical violation of zoning laws, nothing serious, and certainly nothing compared to the corruption Alexander had exposed. "It's a minor issue," the foundation's lawyer assured him. "No one would ever know or care. The greater good far outweighs this technicality." Alexander was tempted. The center would serve thousands of underprivileged patients and provide training for future medical professionals. Wasn't that worth bending? One small rule? Then he remembered Maria's words about working 3 jobs rather than compromising her principles, about what example she wanted to set for Lily. "We'll find another way," he decided. "One that doesn't require us to compromise what we stand for." The decision delayed the project by nearly a year, frustrating donors and staff. But when Alexander explained his reasoning to Lily, now 12 and increasingly perceptive, she nodded, with understanding beyond her years. "It's like in science," she observed. "If you contaminate your experiment even a little, all your results are questionable." 8 years passed. Reed Enterprises recovered and eventually thrived under its new ethical framework, though it never regained the meteoric growth of its more freewheeling days. Alexander returned as CEO after the investigations cleared him personally of wrongdoing, implementing policies that became industry standards for corporate governance. The $15 Foundation expanded nationally, opening medical training, centers in underserved communities, and providing scholarships to hundreds of promising students. Maria, now the Foundation's executive director, developed programs that became models for similar initiatives across the country. And Lily, she graduated high school as valedictorian and earned a full scholarship to Johns Hopkins University's pre-med program. On the day of her white coat ceremony, marking her formal entry into medical school, Alexander and Maria sat in the audience, watching with matching expressions of pride. The ceremony concluded with the dedication of a new student health clinic on campus, funded by the $15 Foundation and bearing an unusual name, the $15 Miracle Clinic. As the crowd dispersed after the ceremony, Lily, resplendent in her white coat, approached them with a distinguished older professor. "Mom, Alexander, this is Dr. Bennett, the Dean of Medicine." Lily beamed. "Dr. Bennett, these are the people I told you about, the ones who made everything possible." The Dean shook their hands warmly. "Lily has shared your remarkable story. I must say, it's rare to encounter such a perfect example of how a small act of kindness can create ripples that become waves." Later that evening, at a celebratory dinner, Lily raised her glass in a toast. "To $15, she said, her eyes bright with emotion. "The best investment ever made." "To $15, Alexander echoed, looking at the remarkable young woman before him and the equally remarkable woman beside him. "And to the little girl who taught a so-called successful man what real value looks like." As they celebrated, into the evening, Alexander reflected on the strange journey that had brought him here. He had lost his company temporarily, his reputation had been damaged, and his net worth, while still substantial, was significantly reduced from its peak. By any conventional measure, he had fallen far from his former heights. Yet, looking at Maria, who had become not just his partner in the foundation, but in life, and at Lily, whose future promised to positively impact countless lives, Alexander knew with absolute certainty that he had never been richer. The $15 that changed hands that day in the grocery store had indeed been miraculous, not because of their monetary value, but because they had shown a man who had everything what he was missing, the simple, transformative power of genuine human connection. As Lily excitedly described her upcoming medical rotations, Alexander remembered the frightened, embarrassed man he had been that day when his cards were declined. He silently thanked whatever force in the universe had arranged that apparently random malfunction that had stripped away his armor and forced him to see, really see, the people around him. Sometimes the greatest miracles come disguised as minor inconveniences. Sometimes a handful of coins can purchase something no amount of wealth could ever buy. And sometimes the poorest among us turn out to be infinitely rich in the things that truly matter. Dear listeners, we hope this story of Alexander, Maria, and Lily has touched your heart as deeply as it has touched ours. Sometimes the smallest gestures can create the most profound changes in our lives. Has someone ever shown you unexpected kindness that altered your path? Or have you been the one to offer that life-changing moment to another? We've created a special playlist featuring stories of transformation and redemption that you can find by clicking to the left. If this journey of rediscovery resonated with you, please subscribe to our channel and leave a like on this video. Every day we bring you powerful narratives that explore the complexity and beauty of human connection. Don't miss